Hello, welcome to my channel. I'm Janet Yung, and in my channel I share about Feng Shui, Bazi, entrepreneurship as well as personal growth, especially in the areas of communication, motivation and success. Today's episode is a continuation of last week's episode on how do we handle mental stress and emotional stress, especially from the perspective of Bazi, and how do we look for the triggers that will actually affect you. So without further ado, let's move on to the next segment where I'll share more. In last week's episode, I talked about the tri-persecuting clash, of which there are two sets, which also encompasses a clash of the goat and the ox for 2021, as well as that of the tiger, which is the year 2022, and for those with the monkey in their charts. On top of that, there are 4 other clash pairs that we should be investigating. If you have missed last week's episode, please remember to click on the video here to watch it so that you understand what's tri-persecuting clash. And right now I'll share with you the other 4 pairs. Like in a few of my other videos previously, I talked about clashes involving opposing elements. So besides the 2 sets that I mentioned earlier on of the ox and the goat, the tiger and the monkey, we also have the rat and the horse, which I talked about for a few of my 2020 videos. You can refer to my Bazi video playlist, or I'll be including the links to these videos in the video description below. The next is then the rabbit and the rooster clash, which is a wood and metal clash. And then following that, you have the dragon and dog clash, followed by the snake and the pig clash. So the dragon and the dog is earth and earth clash, and the snake and the pig is that of the fire and water clash again. In one of my videos that I talked about how these clashes will affect health, you can refer to them in the video description or the link that I'm pointing to here right now. Since this series, it's really about mental and emotional stress. Usually what happens in a clash. Now, besides the changes in terms of where it is affecting depending on the animal branch within your chart, like I mentioned in a few of my other videos, the clash generally represents from a self-perception perspective, a differences of opinion with others. Now you have to remember that when we talk about a clash, a lot of times it is within our chart, especially it's within our natal chart. Now, if it comes in from the perspective of a 10-year luck pillar or the annual animal branch that comes into clash to our charts, then most times it's external events that is coming in causing some friction. However, this friction is again, like I mentioned early on, Bazi chart is really about our perception of the world. If you are looking at a couple's relationship or a relationship even with your boss or colleagues, unless they have a similar clash within their charts, it is purely your perception. Maybe you feel that they are against you, maybe you feel that whatever that you say, that they are opposing you, but from their perspective, it may not be. It may just be contributing a different perspective so that you can think about it. Therefore, before you react emotionally or negatively to what they have to say, I think it is crucial for you to basically look at from what perspective they are coming from and asking the questions why. At the end of the day, because each of us are brought up in different environments with different educational background, it is crucial then that you basically understand their perspective rather than imposing and getting emotionally affected because they react differently or react different from the expectations that you want them to react. This happens very, very often in a couple. Recently, I have seen quite a lot of couples, and one of the key things that they have disagreements about, do you know what it is? It is not because they do not love each other. To my son's surprise when I asked him this question, is just purely because of housework. And why is this the case? Now in Singapore, a couple usually gets married, they will get their HDB or government subsidized flat. And this can be a huge part of investment at the start of their married couple relationship. And because it's such a heavy investment, therefore upkeeping the house, making sure that the house is neat and tidy is one of the top priorities. However, this priority may differ because of different expectations and individual. So if the wife wants to keep the house neat and tidy, they may actually discuss with their husband to have an agreement of when they should be doing housework. However, maybe the husband is busy with work, maybe the husband has got other priorities, and therefore the work at home did not get done. So that's a source of frustration and quarrels for a lot of young couples that I see. Now, I think if you look deeper into the issue, it is because of the expectation by the wife or the husband for the other half to do certain things. And when it is not met, and that's when quarrels happen. And during a clash period itself, unlike a lot of the other combinations, whether is it the harm, self-punishment, which I will talk about in the next few episodes, in a clash, these issues actually come out in the open, because when you clash, things are broken off, things come out into the open. And if you are not careful with the words or managing your emotions, then feelings get hurt, and therefore it may be irreversible in terms of relationships. So I think it's crucial that if you know that this is one of the triggers, and you know that it's either your clash year, your clash 10-year luck pillar, or it's an existing clash within your chart, to be aware and therefore be able to better handle your relationships and differences with other people. In today's episode, I'll be not talking so much about health or changes. If you'd like to find out more, you can click on basically the video on "Oh no, I have a clash in my chart" on how to handle emotional healing, as well as some other videos that I place in the video link description. Next, I'd like to move on to tips on how you can handle this clash. Just like I mentioned previously, that depending on where the animal branch is within your chart in your 4 pillars. If it is within the year, then it could be differences of opinions or changes in the external company environment, or with your grandparents, or being not staying at home or near your grandparents. If it is within the month pillar, then it could be with your parents, with your immediate superior, with the immediate department. If it is within the day, then it's usually either with your siblings, with your peers, or with your spouse or partner. And if it is within the hour, then it is basically with your subordinates, your children, or people who are younger than you. Therefore, tip number 1 in how to resolve or be better at overcoming this is to be aware of yourself, understand your chart, be aware when this can happen. Now, I'm not saying that when you understand yourself and manage your emotions, it means not expressing the anger, but be aware such that when you are emotional, find a different outlet. Do not basically react at that particular moment in time and then have regrets later on. However, if you suppress that emotion and do not react by maybe looking for a hobby, maybe playing a certain sport to express your anger and all those, then it may cause serious issues in terms of your serotonin production, in terms of your neurotransmitters that can lead to maybe depression later on. So these is some of the key things that you need to remember. So tip 1 is basically to understand yourself and know how you can release that particular suppressed or negative emotion, not from an immediate perspective, but looking for an alternative source. Why is this the case? So that you, number 1, can manage your reaction and not hurt other people's feelings. Number 2, at the same time, be able to release your negative emotion and not suppress it for too long, because it can cause serious health issues. The second one is basically to understand the other party. Now, if I want the other party to see my point of view, Because we are brought up in two different circumstances, two different backgrounds, if I express something from my perspective, the other person may not understand. So only by having better communication and understanding the other party, for instance, in the case that I talk about the couple, understanding your partner or your spouse as to why they are not basically wanting to do that particular task that they agreed upon, getting them to prioritize, and at the same time be able to manage your expectations that they are not the same with us. That would be one of the most crucial points in order to have better relationship and better communication. And the third tip, like I mentioned earlier on, managing your expectations. Remember, I said that a clash at times is in terms of change, in terms of differences of opinion with other people. Therefore, if you expect the same result every single time you hit a hurdle, by addressing the same situation, by hitting the nail on the head the same way, how can you expect a different outcome, right? If you want to basically have a different outcome, you need to tweak your communication style, understand the other person, maybe tweak your own expectation. Maybe understanding, maybe your expectation is A, and in the same situation, your partner's or the other party's expectation is B, and then finding a common ground or agreeing to disagree will then be able to make you happier and find a win-win solution. Here it is in terms of how you handle from an emotional as well as mental stress perspective when a clash happens. Tip number one, like I mentioned earlier on, it's really to understand yourself and manage your emotions, okay, in terms of maybe not reacting immediately or finding an alternative outlet such that you're able to release that suppressed or negative emotions. Therefore, your health will not get impacted. The second one, it's really to understand the other party that you're communicating with, and if it involves a lot of changes, then what are the expectations once there is this particular change. And therefore, once you have an understanding and communication from their perspective, the third part is then managing your own expectations as well as the other person's expectations so that you can reach a win-win outcome. So here are the 3 tips that I would like to share based on my experience as well as what I've shared with my clients over the last 16 years. In today's episode, I did not really touch a lot about the clash in terms of changes in the external environment or the health impact, because I've already covered those in another video, and you can click on the links in the video description to find out more. As mentioned in my previous video, I've received quite a lot of interest in me creating an online course on how do you do practical Bazi and practical Feng Shui, and I'm leaving a link, or you can click on this link that I'm showing here if you're interested to sign up so that I understand your concerns and needs. I'll create a course based on what you would like to have. So I'll see you next week where I'll share more about harms and punishments. Goodbye.